can read from here. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bol. So thank you everyone for coming to this morning's Krishna book class. I'm very grateful to be here, and I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially His Grace Shuri Prabhu. Please bless me to say something that is purifying and that is pleasing to Krishna. Oh, yes, I'm reading about the marriage of Samba. It's chapter 68 of Krishna book. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Kadambakhanana Swami Niti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Guru Dasa Veta Swami Niti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasati Adeshatarine. So, chapter 68, the marriage of Samba. Duryodhan, the son of Dhritarashtra, had a marriageable daughter by the name of Lakshmana. She was a very highly qualified girl of the Kuru dynasty, and many princes wanted to marry her. In such cases, the Swayamvara ceremony is held so that the girl may select her husband according to her own choice. In Lakshmana's Swayamvar assembly, when the girl was to select her husband, Samba appeared. He was the son of Krishna's by Jambavati, one of Lord Krishna's chief wives. This son, Samba, was so named because he was a pet child and always lived close to his mother. The name Samba indicates a son who is very much his mother's pet. Amba means mother, and Sa means with. So this special name was given to him because he always remained with his mother. He was also known as Jambavati Sutta for the same reason. As previously explained, all the sons of Krishna were as qualified as their great father. Samba wanted Duryodhana's daughter, Lakshmana, although she was not inclined to have him. Therefore, Samba kidnapped Lakshmana by force from the Swayamvara ceremony. Because Samba took Lakshmana away from the assembly by force, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, such as Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Vidura, and Arjuna, thought it an insult to their family tradition that the boy, Samba, could possibly have kidnapped their daughter. All of them knew that Lakshmana was not at all inclined to select him as her husband, and that she was not given a chance to select her own husband. Instead, she was forcibly taken away by this boy. Therefore, they decided that he must be punished. They unanimously declared that he was most impudent and had degraded the Kuru's family tradition. Therefore, all of them, under the counsel of the elder members of the Kuru family, decided to arrest the boy but not kill him. They concluded that the girl could not be married to any boy other than Samba, since she had already been touched by him. According to the Vedic system, once being touched by some boy, a girl cannot be married or given to any other boy. Nor would anyone agree to marry a girl who had already thus associated with another boy. The elder members of the family, such as Bhishma, wanted to arrest him. Thus all the members of the Kuru dynasty, especially the great fighters, joined together just to teach him a lesson, and Karna was made the commander-in-chief for this small battle. While making the plan to arrest Samba, the Kurus counseled amongst themselves that upon his arrest, the members of the Yadu dynasty would be very angry with them. There was every possibility of the Yadus accepting the challenge and fighting with them. But they also thought, if they came here to fight with us, what could they do? The members of the Yadu dynasty cannot equal the members of the Kuru dynasty, because the kings of the Kuru dynasty are the emperors, whereas the kings of the Yadu dynasty are able to enjoy their land only because we have granted it to them. The Kurus thought, if they come here to challenge us because their son was arrested, we shall accept the fight and teach them a lesson, so that automatically they will be subdued under pressure, as the senses are subdued by the mystic yoga process of pranayama. In the mechanical system of mystic yoga, the airs within the body are controlled, and the senses are subdued and checked from being engaged in anything other than meditation upon Lord Vishnu. So it's interesting to see the Kuru dynasty, as we know from the very famous Battle of Kurukshetra, that they're more inclined to fight than to resolve things peacefully. And we can see from here, which was before the Battle of Kurukshetra, that they have this great pride about their position and their authority over others, and the fact that others are only able to enjoy what we give, like they're in control. They're always trying to be the controllers. And it's ironic because they think that they can fight with the Yadu dynasty. They never understood Krishna's position of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they could never win against Krishna. And this is one such occasion when they didn't understand this fact. After consultation and after receiving permission from the elder members of the Kuru dynasty, such as Bhishma and Dhritarashtra, 5 great warriors, Karna, Shala, Buri, Yagyaketu, and Duryodhan, the father of the girl, who were all Maharathis and who were guided by the great fighter Bhishma Dev, attempted to arrest the boy Samba. They are different grades of fighters, including Maharati, Ekarati, and Rati, classified according to their fighting ability. These Maharatis could fight alone with many thousands of men. All of them combined together to arrest Samba. Samba was also a Maharati, but he was alone and had to fight with the 6 other Maharatis. Still, he was not deterred when he saw all the great fighters of the Kuru dynasty coming up behind him to arrest him. Alone, he turned toward them and took his nice bow, posing exactly as a lion stands adamant in the face of other animals. Karna, leading the party, challenged Samba. "Why are you fleeing? Just stand and we shall teach you a lesson." When challenged by another Kshatriya to stand and fight, a Kshatriya cannot run away. He must fight. Therefore, Samba accepted the challenge and stood alone before them. But as soon as he did so, he was overpowered by showers of arrows shot by all the great warriors. A lion is never afraid of being chased by many wolves and jackals. Similarly, Samba, the glorious son of the Yadu dynasty, endowed with inconceivable potencies as the son of Lord Krishna, became very angry at the warriors of the Kuru dynasty for improperly using arrows against him. He fought them with great talent. First of all, he struck each of the 6 charioteers with 6 separate arrows. He used another 4 arrows to kill the charioteers' horses, 4 on each chariot. Then he used 1 arrow to kill the driver and 1 arrow for Karna, as well as the other celebrated fighters. While Samba so diligently fought alone with the 6 great warriors, they all appreciated the boy's inconceivable potency. Even in the midst of the fighting, they admitted frankly that this boy Samba was wonderful. But the fighting was conducted in the Kshatriya spirit, so altogether, although it was improper, they obliged Samba to get down from his chariot, now broken to pieces. So it's interesting how we see from these fights in the ancient Vedic times that it was all done in Kshatriya spirit, where there wasn't this animosity. Like it said with the Battle of Kurukshetra that they fought in the day, but they'd associate in the night. So it's different from how we have wars in this day and age, where countries just really hate each other, and then it's not only the warriors who are fighting, it's also the citizens that start hating each other, and then it's like other countries get involved and take sides, and it creates this whole atmosphere of animosity. But in Vedic times, we can see that even though the Kauravas are really sinful because they don't accept Krishna and they're always trying to be the controllers and always trying to lord it over, basically, but still they can admire, wow, what a great warrior Samba is. They can glorify the fact that we're fighting him, but he is so exalted, like he's really challenging us. That's an interesting point that's different from our mentality in this day and age. Of the 6 warriors, 4 took care to kill Samba's 4 horses. 1 struck down his chariot driver, and 1 managed to cut the string of Samba's bow so that he could no longer fight with them. In this way, with great difficulty and after a severe fight, they deprived Samba of his chariot and were able to arrest him. Thus, the warriors of the Kuru dynasty accepted their great victory and took their daughter Lakshmana away from him. Thereafter, they entered the city of Hastinapur in great triumph. The great sage Narada immediately carried the news to the Yadu dynasty that Samba had been arrested and told them the whole story. This is typical Narad Muni, always carrying stories to create a pastime, to enhance the nectar by carrying what's happened, even though it's meant to happen this way. But Narad Muni, he's like a catalyst of pastimes. The members of the Yadu dynasty became very angry at Samba's being arrested and improperly so by 6 warriors. Now, with the permission of the head of the Yadu dynasty, King Ugrasen, they prepared to attack the capital city of the Kuru dynasty. Although Lord Balaram knew very well that by slight provocation people are prepared to fight with one another in the age of Kali, he did not like the idea that the 2 great dynasties, the Kuru dynasty and the Yadu dynasty, would fight amongst themselves, even though they were influenced by Kali Yuga. Instead of fighting with them, he wisely thought, let me go there and see the situation, and let me try to see if the fight can be settled by mutual understanding. Balaram's idea was that if the Kuru dynasty could be induced to release Samba along with his wife Lakshmana, then the fight could be avoided. He therefore immediately arranged for a nice chariot to go to Hastinapur, accompanied by learned priests and brahmanas, as well as by some of the elder members of the Yadu dynasty. He was confident that the members of the Kuru dynasty would agree to this marriage and avoid fighting with the Yadus. As Lord Balaram proceeded toward Hastinapur in his chariot, accompanied by the brahmanas and elders, he looked like the moon shining in the clear sky amongst the glittering stars. When Lord Balaram reached the precincts of the city of Hastinapur, he did not enter, but stationed himself in a camp outside the city, in a small garden house. Then he asked Uddhava to meet with the leaders of the Kuru dynasty and inquire from them whether they wanted to fight with the Yadu dynasty or to make a settlement. Uddhava went to see the leaders of the Kuru dynasty, and he met all the important members, including Bhishmadev, Dhritarashtra, Dronacharya, Duryodhan, and Bhalika. After offering them due respects, he informed them that Lord Balaram had arrived at the garden outside the city. So it's interesting because Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that since there's no mention of Uddhava offering respects to Yudhishthir and the other Pandavas, it is understood that they were now already living in Indraprastha. The leaders of the Kuru dynasty, especially Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, were joyful because they knew very well that Lord Balaram was a great well-wisher of their family. There were no bounds to their joy on hearing the news, and so they immediately welcomed Uddhava. In order to properly receive Lord Balaram, they all took in their hands auspicious paraphernalia for his reception and went to see him outside the city gate. According to their respective positions, they welcomed Lord Balaram by giving him in charity nice cows and arghya, a mixture of arti water and an assortment of items such as honey, butter, flowers, and sandalwood pulp. Because all of them knew the exalted position of Lord Balaram as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they bowed their heads before the Lord with great respect. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the verse is that it says that those among the Kurus who understood his true power bowed down to him, touching their heads to the ground. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Bhishma was one such person who knew Balaram's power, so he offered respects by bowing down. They all exchanged words of reception by asking one another about their welfare. And when such formalities were finished, Lord Balaram, in a great voice and very patiently, submitted before them the following words for their consideration. My dear friends, this time I have come to you as a messenger with the order of the all-powerful King Ugrasen. Please, therefore, hear the order with attention and great care. Without wasting a single moment, please try to carry out the order. King Ugrasen knows very well that you warriors of the Kuru dynasty improperly fought with the pious Samba, who was alone, and that with great difficulty and unrighteous tactics, you have arrested him. We have all heard this news, but we are not very much agitated because we are most intimately related to one another. I do not think we should disturb our good relationship. We should continue our friendship without any unnecessary fighting. Please, therefore, immediately release Samba and bring him along with his wife Lakshmana before me." When Lord Balaram spoke in a commanding tone full of heroic assertion, supremacy, and chivalry, the leaders of the Kuru dynasty did not appreciate his sentiments. Rather, they all became very agitated. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that Lord Balaram didn't really get so much into the details of this conversation. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Balaram just said, "You are kings, but Ugrasen is the ruler of everyone." Why? Because he is the master whose order even Indra and others carry out, offering him tribute in the form of the Sudharma hall and the Parijata tree. Yayati forbade the Yadus from being kings, but he did not forbid them from being rulers of kings. You should listen carefully to his order, otherwise he will punish you. And then he said that Ugrasen is saying this, "I am tolerating that you unjustly defeated Samba." And his meaning was, the implied meaning was, therefore you should immediately bring him forward and give him back. But Balaram didn't get a chance to even complete the statement, because just on hearing those words that you unjustly defeated Samba, the Kurus were already very upset, and then they just started, saying all this blasphemy, basically. So the point being made here is that King Ugrasen, his dynasty is one that is so greatly respected by Lord Indra. Even the King of Heaven has given the Sudharma hall for when they were creating the city of Dwarka, and the Parijata tree that Krishna got for Satyabhama. So if the King of Heaven is submissive to Ugrasen, then it shows that he's really greatly respected. And it said here he's the ruler of everyone. And there's a reference here to Yayati, who forbade the Yadus from being kings. So there's a story in Srimad Bhagavatam of King Yayati, who had 5 sons, and he wanted to trade his youth, so that he wanted to trade his old age for their youth, so that he can continue enjoying. And he asked his other sons. 3 of them said no, they didn't want to, and because they want their youth, they want to enjoy. But Yadu, he also said no, he didn't want to. But his reason wasn't for enjoyment. His reason was because actually for Krishna consciousness, for elevation of our spiritual life, we want to go through the phase of enjoyment in youth so that we can achieve renunciation when we're older. That was his reasoning. But the real reasoning was that actually Krishna was going to take birth in his dynasty. So he didn't want to forego his youth, because in his youth he's going to have this dynasty. And then Yayati asked his other son Puru to trade his youth, and Puru agreed. So that's why Yayati made Puru the king and put all his other sons to be subservient to Puru, and left them all under Puru's control. So here it's saying that the Yadus were, that Yayati forbade the Yadus from being kings in that sense, that he didn't allow Yadu to be the king. So we'll continue reading. So it says, rather, all of them became agitated, and with great anger they said, "Hello, these words are very astonishing, but quite befitting the age of Kali. Otherwise, how could Balaram speak so vituperatively? The language and tone used by Balaram are simply abusive. And due to the influence of this age, it appears that the shoes befitting the feet want to rise to the top of the head, where the helmet is worn." So he is referring to the Kurus as being the helmet, and the Yadus being the shoes. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So he's referring to the Yadus being the shoes and trying to take the position of the helmet. We are connected with the Yadu dynasty by marriage, and because of this, they have been given the chance to come live with us, dine with us, and sleep with us. Now they are taking advantage of these privileges. They had practically no position before we gave them a portion of our kingdom to rule, and now they are trying to command us. We have allowed the Yadu dynasty to use the royal insignias like the whisk, fan, conch shell, white umbrella, crown, royal throne, sitting place, and bedstead, along with everything else befitting the royal order. They should not have used such royal paraphernalia in our presence, but we did not check them due to our family relationships. Now they have the audacity to order us to do things. Well, enough of their impudence. We cannot allow them to do any more of these things, nor shall we allow them to use these royal insignias. It would be best to take all these things away. It is improper to feed a snake with milk, since such merciful activities simply increase his venom. The Yadu dynasty is now trying to go against those who have fed them so nicely. Their flourishing condition is due to our gifts and merciful behavior, and still they are so shameless that they are trying to order us. How regrettable are all these activities! No one in the world can enjoy anything if members of the Kuru dynasty like Bhishma, Dronacharya, and Arjuna do not allow them to. Exactly as the lamb cannot enjoy life in the presence of a lion, without our desire, it is not even possible for the demigods in heaven, headed by King Indra, to find enjoyment in life. What to speak of ordinary human beings? Actually, the members of the Kuru dynasty were very much puffed up due to their opulence, kingdom, aristocracy, family tradition, great warriors, family members, and vast, expansive empire. They did not even observe common formalities of civilized society. And in the presence of Lord Balaram, they uttered insulting words about the Yadu dynasty. Having spoken in this unmannerly way, they returned to their city of Hastinapur. So it said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that after the Kauravas left this, after saying all of this back into the city, Balaram, who was actually in the presence of the city people, said and did what he wanted by showing his anger. So what he's about to say is the city people are present for it. Although Lord Balaram patiently heard their insulting words and simply observed their uncivil behavior, from his appearance it was clear that he was burning with anger and was thinking of retaliating with great vengeance. His bodily features became so much agitated that it was difficult for anyone to look at him. He laughed very loudly and said, "Is it true that if a man becomes too much puffed up because of his family, opulence, beauty, and material advancement, he no longer wants a peaceful life, but becomes belligerent toward all others? It is useless to give such a person good instruction for gentle behavior and a peaceful life. On the contrary, one should search out the ways and means to punish him. Generally, due to material opulence, a man becomes exactly like an animal. To give an animal peaceful instructions is useless, and the only means is argumentum ab baculum. In other words, the only means to keep animals in order is a stick. Just see how impudent are the members of the Kuru dynasty. I wanted to make a peaceful settlement despite the anger of all the other members of the Yadu dynasty, including Lord Krishna himself. They were preparing to attack the whole kingdom of the Kuru dynasty, but I pacified them and took the trouble to come here to settle the affair without any fighting. Yet these rascals behave like this. It is clear that they do not want a peaceful settlement, for they are factually warmongers. With great pride, they have repeatedly insulting me by calling the Yadu dynasty ill names." And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Balaram's mood is, "Although I am famous as their well-wisher, they have insulted me with bad words." So it's an interesting point that Lord Balaram has a very special relationship with Duryodhana and the Kuru dynasty. And it's interesting, and I'll speak about it a bit later, about how this relationship even exists. And it's because they're so much against Lord Krishna, but they have a very good relationship with Lord Balaram. And we can see that by the fact that they were very joyfully coming to meet Lord Balaram, very respectful towards him. And it said their joy had no bounds. But then very quickly their mood changed. With the Kuru dynasty, once you ask for a peaceful settlement, it's just they cannot accept it. So their mood just immediately became very aggressive. So Balaram continued, "Even the king of the heaven, Indra, abides by the order of the Yadu dynasty. And you consider King Ugrasen, the head of the Bhojas, Vrishnis, Andakas, and Yadavas, to be the leader of a small phalanx? Your conclusion is wonderful. You do not care for King Ugrasen, whose order is obeyed even by King Indra. Consider the exalted position of the Yadu dynasty. They have forcibly used both the assembly house and the Parijata tree of the heavenly planets, and still you think that they cannot order you. Don't you even think that Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can sit on the exalted royal throne and command everyone? All right, if your thinking is like that, you deserve to be taught a very good lesson." So Balaram's being sarcastic when he's expressing his anger here. "You have thought it wise that the royal insignias like the whisk fan, white umbrella, royal throne, and other princely paraphernalia not be used by the Yadu dynasty. Does this mean that even Lord Krishna, the Lord of the whole creation and the husband of the goddess of fortune, cannot use this royal paraphernalia? The dust of Krishna's lotus feet is worshipped by all the great demigods. The Ganges water inundates the whole world, and since it emanates from his lotus feet, its banks have turned into great places of pilgrimage. The principal deities of all planets engage in his service and consider themselves most fortunate to take the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna on their helmets. Great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even the goddess of fortune and I are simply plenary parts of his spiritual identity. And still you think that he is not fit to use the royal insignia or even sit on the royal throne. Alas, how regrettable it is that these fools consider us, the members of the Yadu dynasty, to be like shoes and themselves the helmets. It is clear now that these leaders of the Kuru dynasty have become mad over their worldly possessions and opulence. Every statement they made was full of crazy proposals. I should immediately take them to task and bring them to their senses. If I do not take steps against them, it will be improper on my part. Therefore, on this very day, I shall rid the whole world of any trace of the Kuru dynasty. I shall finish them off immediately." So Lord Balaram's very angry, and it's deserving because the Kuru dynasty are being offensive to Lord Krishna. They're puffed up by their opulence, and all these things that Lord Balaram is saying here shows that they don't recognize that Krishna is actually the leader, and Krishna is actually the one to be worshipped on the throne and to be able to freely use everything because everything belongs to him. So then it said, while talking like this, Lord Balaram seemed so furious that he looked as if he could burn the whole cosmic creation to ashes. He stood up steadily and, taking his plow in his hand, began striking the earth with it, separating the whole city of Hastinapur from the earth. And then he began to drag the city toward the flowing water of the river Ganges. This caused a great tremor throughout Hastinapur, as if there had been an earthquake, and it seemed that the whole city will be dismantled. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that by Balaram's desire, his plow increased in size in order to do this. And when he dragged this whole city towards the Ganges, he was saying except for Shamba, you should attack and kill everyone in the city with your water. So it shows how he was trying to protect Samba, but basically kill everyone else. And it's interesting because in Vedic times, there were such potent weapons and even this kind of instruction where it could focus in on exactly who was meant to be attacked by it. These days, we just have these atomic bombs that destroy the whole city and the whole world sometimes, and it keeps everything toxic for like many hundreds of years into the future. And everyone, whether you're innocent or not innocent, you're negatively affected by it. But here we can see with expertise in the Battle of Kurukshetra and in this instance that it's very much aimed and targeted at who is meant to actually get the reaction for the sin. So here he says, except for Samba, you should attack and kill everyone in the city. Thus Balaram would fulfill his promise to rid the earth of the Kauravas while making sure that nothing bad would happen to Samba. So when he did this, I'll continue reading. When all the members of the Kuru dynasty saw that their city was about to fall into the water of the Ganges, and when they heard their citizens howling in great anxiety, they immediately came to their senses and understood what was happening. Thus, without waiting another second, they brought forward their daughter Lakshmana. They also brought Samba, who had forcibly tried to take her away, keeping him in the forefront with Lakshmana at the back. All the members of the Kuru dynasty appeared before Lord Balaram with folded hands, just to beg the pardon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now using good sense, they said, O Lord Balaram, reservoir of all pleasures, you are the maintainer and support of the entire cosmic situation. Unfortunately, we were all unaware of your inconceivable potencies. Dear Lord, please consider us most foolish. Our intelligence was bewildered and not in order. Therefore, we have come before you to beg your pardon. Please excuse us. You are the original creator, sustainer, and annihilator of the whole cosmic manifestation. And still, your position is always transcendental. O all-powerful Lord, great sages speak about you. You are the original puppeteer, and everything in the world is just like your toy. O unlimited one, you have a hold on everything, and like child's play, you hold all the planetary systems on your head. When the time for dissolution comes, you close up the whole cosmic manifestation within yourself. At that time, nothing remains but yourself lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu. Our dear Lord, you have appeared on this earth in your transcendental body just for the maintenance of the cosmic situation. You are above all anger and envy and enmity. Whatever you do, even in the form of chastisement, is auspicious for the whole material existence. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the imperishable Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all opulences and potencies. O Creator of innumerable universes, let us fall down and offer you our respectful obeisances again and again. We are now completely surrendered unto you. Please, therefore, be merciful upon us and give us your protection. So it's interesting that the Kuru dynasty very quickly came to their senses, and they submitted this very humble prayer to Lord Balaram. And you can see from what they're saying, they understand the position of Lord Balaram. They have great respect, and they accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's so interesting how they don't understand the position of Lord Krishna. And here they're offering praise, they're begging for forgiveness, they're glorifying the Lord, and then they're asking for protection. When the prominent members of the Kuru dynasty, from grandfather Bhishmadev to Arjuna and Duryodhan, had offered their respectful prayers in that way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram, immediately became softened and assured them that there was no cause for fear and that they need not worry. See, Balaram is very forgiving. For the most part, it was the practice of the Kshatriya kings to inaugurate some kind of fighting between the parties of the bride and bridegroom before the marriage. When Samba forcibly took away Lakshmana, the elder members of the Kuru dynasty were pleased to see that he was actually the suitable match for her. In order to see his personal strength, however, they fought with him, and without respect for the regulations of fighting, they all arrested him. When the Yadu dynasty decided to release Samba from the confinement of the Kurus, Lord Balaram came personally to settle the matter, and as a powerful Kshatriya, he ordered them to free Samba immediately. The Kauravas were superficially insulted by this order, so they challenged Lord Balaram's power. They simply wanted to see him exhibit his inconceivable strength. Thus, with great pleasure, they handed over their daughter to Samba, and the whole matter was settled. Duryodhan, being affectionate towards his daughter Lakshmana, had her married to Samba in great pomp. For her dowry, he first gave 1,200 elephants, each at least 60 years old. Then he gave 10,000 nice horses, 6,000 chariots, dazzling just like the sunshine, and 1,000 maidservants decorated with golden ornaments. Lord Balaram, the most prominent member of the Yadu dynasty, acted as guardian of the bridegroom, Samba, and very pleasingly accepted the dowry. Balaram was very satisfied after his great reception from the side of the Kurus, and accompanied by the newly married couple, he started toward his capital city of Dwarka. So here Srila Prabhupada is giving like the transcendental perspective of what's happened here, that they actually arrested Samba and they challenged Lord Balaram because they wanted to see his inconceivable strength. So in the pastimes of Krishna, it's so amazing that so many different angles can be seen, and each pastime is fulfilling so many different purposes. Lord Balaram triumphantly reached Dwarka, where he met with many citizens who were all his devotees and friends. When they all assembled, Lord Balaram narrated the whole story of the marriage, and they were astonished to hear how Balaram had made the city of Hastinapur tremble. It is confirmed by Sukadev Goswami that in those days, the river flowing through the city of Hastinapur, which is present-day New Delhi, was known as the Ganges, although today it is called the Yamuna. From authorities like Jiva Goswami, it is confirmed that the Ganges and Yamuna are the same river flowing in different courses. The part of the Ganges which flows through Hastinapur to the area of Vrindavan is called the Yamuna because it is sanctified by the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. The part of Hastinapur which slopes toward the Yamuna becomes inundated during the rainy season and reminds everyone of Lord Balaram's threatening to cast the city into the Ganges. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 68th chapter of Krishna, the marriage of Samba. So, when I read this pastime, the first thing I thought was, if Lord Balaram could get the Kauravas to submit to him in this kind of relatively small incident where they kidnap Samba, and very quickly he just threatened them with a slight movement of his plow, and then quickly they just returned Samba. And, I was wondering, why didn't he do that for the Battle of Kurukshetra, which was so much bigger and affected so many more people and became into such a huge thing? Why couldn't he just, show his superiority and his supremacy by doing a similar thing? Then I was reminded that the Battle of Kurukshetra was intended to rid the burden of the earth from all the impious rulers. So this is just a way to manage the situation, but and keep everyone peaceful, or keep both sides relatively happy. But the Battle of Kurukshetra's intention was get rid of all demoniac kings. So that's why it had to happen. And And we see that Lord Balaram didn't want to be involved in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He actually chose to go on pilgrimage at the time because he wanted to have nothing to do with it. And we notice that there's this special relationship between Lord Balaram and Duryodhana. And it always puzzled me, like, why? Why do they have this special relationship? When Duryodhana is completely against Krishna, he's not a devotee, and he also has animosity towards Krishna's pure devotees, the Pandavas. And he tried in so many ways to actually kill the Pandavas just to get the kingdom, burning the house, having the gambling match, and then rigging the gambling match so that they could get more and more from the Pandavas, and then banishing the Pandavas. So there's so many ways in which the Kauravas were just were unnecessarily hurtful to the Pandavas, and the Pandavas were always trying to keep the peace. So it shows that the Kauravas had no respect for Krishna. So how could Balaram have a close relationship with them? And I was reading this article by Madhavananda Prabhu where he was talking about this, he was analyzing this whole point. And then it was mentioned that when Yudhishthir asked Krishna to go to Hastinapur to deliver a peace message again on behalf of the Pandavas, Duryodhana grossly disrespected him and even tried to capture him. Whereas with Balaram, he welcomed him so nicely, respected him, at least externally, and then, they had the difficulty of insulting him after that. But even with Krishna, he just immediately disrespected him. So where is the relationship between Balaram and Duryodhana coming from? So it's said that Balaram stayed with Duryodhana for a while, for several years actually, and trained him in the art of fighting. So Balaram's actually Duryodhana's teacher. And one of Balaram's names is Duryodhana Guru, the Guru of Duryodhana. So that's why Duryodhana could accept him as the Supreme Lord. And Balaram liked Duryodhana so much that he was willing to give his sister Subhadra to Duryodhana in marriage. That baffled me, because if there's someone that you can see has so much animosity towards Krishna, why would you want to give your sister to them? The whole thing baffled me. And the reason Balaram didn't want to be involved in the fight was because he also had affection for Duryodhana. He didn't want to see this fight. It was too painful for him, the battle of Kurukshetra. And when Bhima killed Duryodhana, Balaram was furious and left. So the understanding that Madhavananda Prabhu was giving about this relationship between Balaram and Duryodhana was that even though there's so much externally, it looks like Balaram really favored Duryodhana in many ways, actually, it was external. It wasn't representing his internal mood. Duryodhana's mood towards Duryodhana's mood towards Krishna was not pleasing to Balaram. And that's why even though externally Balaram appeared to be very merciful to Duryodhana, he actually wasn't. And Madhavananda Prabhu made the point that sometimes we can see this in our own life, that someone may appear to be very close to their guru, but they're not actually close, because closeness doesn't mean just being physically close to your guru or getting a lot of mercy and being favored. The guru will favor us because they're compassionate, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily always pleased with our mood. So even though if we as disciples have the wrong mentality in approaching the guru, we may get other things, but we won't get actual bhakti. We'll get fame, position, wealth. We may get so many other things that the guru can just give us, but we won't get what we're really looking for, which is pure devotion. So even though Duryodhana was close to Balaram, he was actually far away from the Lord. And the second point is that Duryodhan may have had faith in Balaram, but he didn't have faith in Krishna. So, and we know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that that is the logic of half a hen. There's a pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita where there's a devotee who accepts Lord Nityananda but doesn't accept Lord Chaitanya. So that doesn't make sense. How can one want, that logic is known as half a hen logic. It means that you just want half a hen. You want the egg, but you don't want to feed the hen. So you think, okay, in order to avoid the burden of feeding the hen, I'll just cut off the head and I'll just get the egg. But then you don't realize that you're not actually going to get the egg because the hen will be dead. So that logic is called half a hen logic. And in the same way, when we apply that to accepting Lord Nityananda without accepting Lord Chaitanya, it just doesn't make sense. So in the same way, accepting Lord Balaram without accepting Lord Krishna does not make sense. It's half a hen logic. And in this article by Madhavananda Prabhu, he says that that's actually Kanishta mentality, that we surrender to our Guru, but we don't get along with the Vaishnavas. Or we surrender to our Guru, but we don't actually have interest in actually worshipping Krishna or chanting his holy names. So it's not real devotion that we should be aspiring for. And another point is that, this I found interesting, that in the Garga Samhita, it said that Duryodhan is actually a partial expansion of Kali. So, although externally he looks like a follower of Balaram, he's actually a disciple of Kali. He's a servant and follower of Kali. And a servant of Kali will have a separate agenda from the Lord. If you're a servant of Balaram, then your agenda will be to serve Krishna. But if you have a separate agenda, we're actually a servant of Kali. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this point of being a disciple of Kali, Kali Chera. And he says, the translation of this verse by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, "Here is a disciple of Kali Yuga. He has a shaved head, wears kopans, marks his forehead with tilak, and keeps tulsi beads around his neck." So they may externally look exactly like a Vaishnava, but because the mood is one that's against the service of Lord Krishna, then he's a disciple of Kali. He's not a devotee. So these are very strong statements said about Duryodhan and how we can kind of understand his relationship with Lord Balaram. And we can also understand that Lord Balaram is extremely merciful also to everyone. So I'll end there and ask for any contributions or any corrections, clarifications from anyone at this point.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhu.
Actually, the Kaurava tree includes both Pandavas and the Kauravas. Just that due to the selfishness of Dhritarashtra, he wanted exclusively the name for his family and exclude the Pandavas from that.
Yes, that's an interesting point, Prabhu. Thank you.
You gave such an excellent explanation of this. There's something I'm observing in this of how Balaram dealt with things that we can do. Because even though he's God, he did something that similar. Krishna, after he killed Kamsa, sent a Krura to check out what the Kurus were doing. And before Balaram went to negotiate, he wanted Uddhava to go and find out what the situation is. So whenever we deal with things between people, of course Balaram's God, he would know it all, but he sets the example is first we should find out what is the position of both sides? Quite often you hear from one side and you get a different story, right? They say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So we've only heard one part of it. That's why Krishna says in the end of the 3rd chapter to deliberate fully, because with the jury, they get all the information, and then they discuss it, and then they come to a decision. They don't just say, oh, well, I heard this. They take in all the information. And the other thing is we see that the Kurus were upset for themselves, whereas Balaram was presenting it more in the objective case instead of nominative case, that he was talking about the principle of it. And Ugrasena says this, it's better to negotiate on someone else, saying, the Durban temple wants this, and the authorities here feel good when you cooperate, and Prabhupada has given this, says, I don't like what you're doing, right? Instead of presenting it on our own, we're presenting the principle of it. Just like if someone lights up a cigarette and they don't know, rather than say, hey, you can't smoke, you say, I'm sorry, smoking is not allowed. It's not a personal issue, it's the smoking. So we have to be careful to do like that and take in all the information first. We see the Kurus didn't do it. They hadn't educated themselves on Balaram's position, but he did school them, so they did learn it. But this just shows how to deal with things, to get all the facts. And in regards to the war, you see that Krishna tried so many times to negotiate, to stop the war. It wasn't like he just went to war. He tried everything else first. Some people think, well, Krishna wanted a war, we should just go straight to war. He even went so far as he went to Karna. And he told Karna, I'm going to tell you a secret. Your real parents are not Radha and Atirata, but Kunti had you as a teenage girl and put you in a basket down the river. And he said, I don't care, Radha's the one who raised me, not Radharani, a different Radha. And Krishna says, but that makes you the first Pandava, and you get the chance to be the head of the kingdom, and you can even have Draupadi, you can be one of her husbands. And he says, well, I'm loyal to Duryodhan. So it's kind of what they call being on the wrong side of history, isn't it? So, but Krishna even went that far to give him the chance. So he tried everything else first. And what Balaram and Krishna did, what we need to know, is find out all the facts of what's going on. Because it's important to know what's going on. And sometimes, the way people feel may be a more important issue to address than what's actually going on. If I think you're out to get me, I'm looking for the gun and the knife you're hiding. And if I don't think someone else is and they give me a drink with poison, I drink it and die. So I'm so afraid of you because you're going to get a weapon, but you're not going to do it. So we have to understand that sometimes people's feelings on an issue may be so strong they're not able to see. It's just like the people who take the amphetamine drug. They get paranoid and think people are following them. If you actually follow them, do they notice? What do you think? No, because they think everyone's following them. If you think everyone's following you, you don't notice that Rupanuga is, because, well, they're all following. You don't notice. So if we have so many things in our mind about what's going on, we don't notice what is really there. So quite often it's important for us to take in positions of things. Like Prabhupada would always hear all sides to the story. And even we see, when I was reading a few weeks back, that he wrote, this is our principle, but if you have some other idea, write to me and we can discuss it. Because at least you need to know what's going on with the other person before you start making opinions or solutions. Person says, I'm sick. Well, go take this medicine. Well, no, you need to know what the disease. So this gives us good inclination on how to negotiate and deal with people. Do it as principle and find out all the facts and the feelings first.
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu. Such an excellent point about negotiation. Very important. If there's nothing else, then we can end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande people.